Hello and welcome to another ink review today. Today I'm reviewing an ink from Ferris Wheel Press. The ink I'm looking at today is Morningside Mint, from the Morningside series. And this is a lovely light green ink. This is the way the ink comes packaged. Ferris Wheel Press is a Canadian-based company who have been making some really lovely products and of late, and things like the distribution has opened up a lot. So the ink comes beautifully packaged in a lovely bottle. Reminds me a lot of like perfume bottles and things like that. Nice little labeling on the front there with the fairground and all those kinds of things, and pens. You know, like it's a nice look. And that little sort of bolt nut cap. This is a design feature they use across a number of items, such as the brush fountain pen as well. This is how the ink looks. As you can see, it's a nice pastel green. It's light and it's fresh. Morningside Mint, I think, being a very nice name for it. Some nice shading. This is just on, sort of cardstock, but I think it comes up rather nicely. Here I have it on my standard Tomoe River test page. Let's start talking about it. So first things first, I had it in this pen, TWSBI Eco 1.1mm stub. Of course, looking at the color of that ink, I thought it was a fairly decent match. So, the 5 points for this ink. The first point is that presentation. As I showed you, it's a beautiful box. It's a beautiful bottle. It's not necessarily going to be the best bottle to fill from, particularly when you're getting low on ink. And it's probably not the most sturdy bottle going around, but it is beautiful and it's unique. And that sort of presentation is something they take very seriously, doing a lot of that in-house themselves as well. The second point is about the saturation. Now, this is a low saturated ink, and it leads into the second point, that it's a pastel, or third point, this is a pastel kind of color. So it's that soft green. It's, beautiful and light, and sort of an airy color. Lots going on in it though, lots of depth of color and interesting things, but a very low saturation ink. The fourth point here is that it is simple, and by simple I mean no fuss. It's easy to clean. It's, it doesn't have shimmer or sheen. It's got some shading, low water resistance, things like that, but it is just a simple, elegant, light-colored green ink. The next point I make is about the availability. Now, for a while, Ferris Wheel Press items were only available from Ferris Wheel Press, and they had their pens and a few standard inks that they started out with. And as their line has grown, they have actually really, moved into, different retailers and things as well. It's even in a couple of retailers here in Australia now. And I have to do a quick shout out to Inked Pens here in Australia, who provided this ink for this review, as well as loaning me the brush fountain pen for that review as well. This is a lovely company here in Australia online who have a really lovely range of products. And if you're interested in getting Ferris Wheel ink or other products, check Inked Pens out. Let's now talk about performance. So, as I said, this is a light color and saturation, and that allows for some better performance on low-end paper. Now, it's not a highly feathering ink or, bleeding or anything like that. So when you put it on a lower-end paper, you don't get those sort of big, harsh reactions like some highly saturated, showy inks give you. This would be great in dryer pens because it does have a decent wet flow, but it also, that color and that flow would work well in a dryer pen to allow for use on just about any kind of paper, really. It is excellent on higher quality paper like this Tomoe River. See beautiful shading because the ink pools in those nice little wet pockets, and that's nice. And the other thing I've had to say is that there's little to no water resistance. So I just did a little square here, wet it, dabbed it up, and most of the ink has sort of come up with it. You lose most of your detail. Like, we've lost a lot of the writing and stuff there. So it's an ink not to get wet. In saying that, if you wanted to use it for artwork, that may be an option for you. As I'm looking at this page right now, I'm seeing perhaps little hits of like the vaguest amount of red sheen, just where the ink pools. So you may see that, you may not. Interesting to know. Extras here, I've said, as there's no shimmer or sheen, and there is some shading. Here it is on Rhodia. This is 80 gram Rhodia paper, standard lined Rhodia pad, Ferris Wheel Press, Morningside Mint. as you can see, it is a wet ink, so it doesn't dry on the surface of this paper. This is a vellum paper, so it's coated and it sits on the top. And then you can see in the swab, you've got some lovely hits of like the yellows and the slight little touches of the blue coming up in the shading. It's quite nice. And if we look at the reverse of this page, there you see nothing has come through, barely even from the swab. So it's a nice little ink, it performs well. On the copy paper here, we see that it is a duller colour. That light saturation and that pastel sort of nature of the ink doesn't necessarily hold up on paper that is a bit more absorbent. We get a few hits of where it sort of comes through, but as you can see in comparison to some of these other inks, it's not too bad. And then finally on the student notepad, this is, once again, it's that sort of more dull, uniform, light green. It's actually still very pretty. It's a very attractive colour. I like it a lot, but there's no feathering, well, there's very little feathering, and actually, once again, in comparison to some other inks on this page, there is absolutely so little bleed on this. It's quite impressive. And, you know, it's not in the driest pen either. The TWSBI Eco Stub Nib, you know, does lay down a fairly sort of nice amount of ink. You can just see it just sort of moves along on this paper. But it is certainly not, you know, a dry pen by any stretch. So we are, you know, it is performing quite well. If we look here at the chromatography and then the comparison inks, the chromatography, you do see that hit of a little bit of yellow there, and then the green, of course, and then some nice blue. And I think these colours do come through here in the swab I've done on the Tomoe River. There's that line of blue there around the shading, and in some of the lighter shading, you do get nice hits of sort of that yellowy green, which is beautiful. It's a really nice sort of, I wouldn't say it's a complex ink, because it is kind of what you get, but there's a bit going on in there. And now just comparing it to a couple of other inks. Firstly, I compared it to KWZ. This is the menthol green, which just to show like that it is a very pastel light, low saturation ink. But the other ink I compared it to was Diamine Soft Mint. Given the fact they both have mint in the title, you can see just like the very, very strong difference between those two. So now if we cover the price, this comes in two size bottles. This one, which is the 38ml, and then the big sort of ball-shaped bottle, which is, I think, around 85, I think I said there. As well as also coming in the Morningside charger set. The charger set is a little tray with 3 5ml bottles of ink, and there's a Morningside one, which I think has a pink and a blue in it as well as this mint-coloured green. So the US prices here are from Ferris Wheel Press, and the Australian prices are from Inked Pens. So in the US, you can get the 38ml for $20 and the 85 for $36, which is not super expensive, really. If you think of 85ml for $36, it's a pretty good deal. In Australia, through Ink Pens, you can only get this size, which is the 38ml bottle, and that retails for $29.95 Australian. It is a boutique ink, and you are paying a boutique ink price for it. So I have given this ink 4 out of 5 stars. It is well performed. Like, it holds up on most paper. It writes beautifully. It's got a beautiful shading and colour to it and some lovely depth of colour. So 4 out of 5, I think, is about where this ink sits. The only issue being its low water resistance, if that is an issue for you. So I've said low water resistance, a lovely colour, good performance, but it's a boutique ink at a boutique price. So that was Ferris Wheel Press Morningside Mint, a lovely ink from the very exciting Canadian brand Ferris Wheel Press. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter, or contact me via any of my videos here, or drop me an email which is listed down below. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you'd like to support the channel, like Inked Pens did, by providing me with this bottle of ink for review, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your inks, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.